Hello, friends. I'd love to have you join me as we begin a 4-week study on May 3rd. May 3rd begins our 4-week study on the 4 agreements. This is a simple yet profound book by the great Don Miguel Ruiz, and I promise you it will make a lasting impact in your spiritual life and your life as a whole. It is, in reality, a guide to your personal freedom. That is the 4 agreements, Monday, May 3rd. Blessings on the journey, dear friend.
Supportek Staffing and Center for the Healing Arts present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 146, The Freedom of Now. And now your host, Rev Cynthia Anderson.
Hello and welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Anderson. I'm the host, and I'm here today in 818 Studios with my producer.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 146 of The Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, I hope you had a fantastic weekend and are ready for an amazing week ahead of you. Here, the first week of April.
Yes. Wow. I can't believe we're in April. It's almost Easter.
I know.
And this happy Resurrection Day, friends. So happy Monday to you. This is a big week. It's Holy Week. And this is always a very special week in my personal journey. I'm sure it is with you. If you've been on the journey long, you know that it's not just about celebrating Jesus's resurrection, but it's about celebrating our own journey and what is possible for us as we look to Jesus as our master, as our teacher, as our way shower, and yes, you might even say Savior. And we honor that, we bless that, and we also know that Jesus said, "Greater works than I do, ye shall also do." So there was an idea, there was a plan, there was something set forth that it's time for us to grow, to expand, and to resurrect ourselves. So you'll always hear me reflect on those aspects of Jesus' teaching because I believe sometimes we've gotten a little off track. I'm just starting out with that today. I got to be in my bonnet about it. But welcome to the show. Happy Monday. And we're glad you're with us as always. Yay.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic week, and very happy for springtime, and I'm very happy for the weather's changing. I'm very happy for all the pollen to be done here in Orlando. Man, March was rough for pollen.
Well, as Blossom Dearie says, they say it's spring. Do you know that old tune?
I don't.
I'm feeling light as a feather.
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. They say it's spring. It's you. So go out and listen to some Blossom Dearie. We ought to put a link in the show notes for that. Blossom Dearie is one of my favorite all-time jazz singers, and I just discovered her very recently through a mutual friend who's also been on the show, Steve Luciano. Brought her music into my world. So today is about, Dave, give us the title when you're ready.
The title for today is The Freedom of Now. The Freedom of Now.
The Freedom of Now. All right, friends, if you're at home, if you're cooking, if you're driving, I want you to say listen to this statement, and then I want you to say it with me. Holy cow, I'm in the now.
Holy cow,
Together?
I'm in the now.
No, you wait.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We haven't been in church together for a while.
I know it's been a while, and we've been doing these remote sessions, and so there's lag. And so, but I'm with you now.
Okay, so let me say it first, and then you say it with me. Okay, holy cow, I'm in the now. Together.
Holy cow, I'm in the now.
The now. All right, evidently remotely we can't say it together, friends. So I promise we're not on drugs or any other substance. Other than black medicine, which we lovingly call our coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes. Give it one more time, Dave. What's the title?
The Freedom of Now.
The Freedom of Now. What could I possibly mean by this statement? Well, if you've been listening so far, you know we've already covered 2 or 3 topics. And you know what? There's great freedom in that. I'm not trying to head somewhere. I'm not trying to get you a point. You're going to grab points. You're going to have awarenesses as we go. But the freedom of now is about a spiritual reality. The freedom of now is about a spiritual reality. Probably if you've studied spirituality in the last 20 years, you've probably heard of the book by Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. If you've been in any speaking training, you've probably heard of a coach and an author who wrote a book called Be Heard Now. You also, if you're a musician, especially if you're a jazz musician, you may have heard of the book Effortless Mastery. And all of these authors, all these books I'm mentioning are about the now. Here's another one, Zen in the Art of Archery. There's one about motorcycle too. What is it? Zen in the
art of motorcycle maintenance, I think.
Motorcycle maintenance, exactly. And why would there be this plethora of writing in all different disciplines about the now moment? Why would there be? Well, what the masters have taught us is that in the moment, if we can be in the moment, if we can be in the now, there is great spiritual power. If we can be in the now, there is great spiritual power. It means I'm not stuck in the past. It means I'm not in the future worrying about what's next. What am I going to do? What am I going to pay? The way the mind goes. And if we're stuck in the past, it's, well, look what he did to me, and look what she did to me, and look who they are, and look what they do, and look what they say, and la, 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 la. And you see how neither of these sound fun. Of course, the way I personify them especially. But you can tell these are not fun. So the freedom of now, which is what we're talking about today, is about being in the moment. There is great spiritual power in the now. Now, Dave, I noticed that as I mentioned the Zen of motorcycle maintenance, you were familiar with it. Have you read that book?
I started reading it when I started riding my motorcycle, but I really couldn't get into it. Maybe. I mean, that's been wow. That's been 7 years now. I think I need to revisit it.
How long did you say? 7 years?
7, yeah, because I'm 47 and I started riding bikes on my 40th birthday. That was Shannon's birthday present to me, was motorcycle lessons for my 40th.
I remember, for God's sakes, go get a motorcycle. You want one forever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically it. And so, yeah, I think I need to revisit that. I think I even have the audiobook version of it. And when I started listening to it, it was before I started going to Unity or anything like that. And I don't think I was really in the headspace to receive it, but I'm very much a different person now, I think.
Oh, yes, I'd say so. Well, you've really evolved, right? All of our shows are about growing, prospering, evolving. Mm-hmm. It means that our awareness of ourselves, our awareness of God has changed. We've moved forward. And Zen in the Art of Archery, it's interesting, is quoted very often in Effortless Mastery, which, as you know, is the author Kenny Werner, and jazz musician who we've recently had on a few months ago. And that's what caused me to read Zen in the Art of Archery. And what I know, friends, is that anything you're doing, if you can be in the now moment, it instantly gets better. It instantly gets illuminated, and life in general becomes easier. Because we're in hell if we're stuck in the past or off in the future. I'll tell you why. Because it's pointless. You can't know the future, and as soon as you think you know the future, you're in the ego. I mean, definitively, if you think you know every step that's going to get you there. Like, some of us have intuitions about what's coming, and I often get those. But what I have noticed is that there is a positive and negative aspect to getting those visions and those ideas, because sometimes my ego likes to attach to say how that's going to look. So the freedom of now, to come back to our title, is about in this now moment. Like, what if you could just be totally present now? Well, I want to say this, friends, you might quit multitasking so much. Because when you're multitasking, You're missing at least half of whatever else you're supposed to be doing.
I mean, can we really multitask? I mean, really multitask.
I know.
It's more kind of like multi-threading. You do a little bit of this, give your attention to this thing, and then you immediately go to something else. But I'm not sure that you can truly multitask and give more than one task the focus that it deserves or that it needs.
No, it's true. And so, of course, the mind fights these ideas. I can already hear people saying, well, what do you mean? What do you mean don't get stuck in the past? Are you saying the past didn't happen? Well, what I'm saying is everything is contained in this moment, and that you don't need to go back and keep reviewing, reliving, rewinding. Excuse me, because as you do that, what you're doing is actually keeping the past alive in the now moment. So when we are constantly bringing up the past, what was done to me, what was said to me, then we're keeping the past alive and we're bringing the past into this moment. And what I'm saying is there are great gifts in this moment that have nothing to do with any of that energy of the past.
I've heard I've heard a counselor call this cudding, like a cow will chew on a cud. We'll just bring it back up, chew on it for a while, and then there's no flavor left in it, but it's just, and so just chewing the cud.
Yeah, well, and the interesting thing, of course, is we've learned therapeutically if we pretend the past didn't happen, right, that's not healthy either. But there is a time to talk about it, to get the pieces that need healing. But what most of us, and let me finish that sentence, we go to the past, we talk about what happened, because sometimes it's never been talked about, especially in times of childhood trauma or abuse. Those things have to be worked, or the traumatic patterns continue into today. But there's also something, the scripture says you walk through the valley of the shadow of evil. You don't stay there, pitch a tent, camp out, and have a party. Well, when we call our friends and talk about everything that's wrong and everything that's happened and look what they did to me again, what we're doing is bringing this old energy from the past that wasn't good then, and we're bringing it into our present. And so the gift of the now, then we can't find. We completely miss the gift of the now. So, but as I'm saying this, don't hear me say, oh no, don't go to therapy and talk about the past. No, there's a time to do that. But I'm saying we don't live as if the past is happening now. Of course, psychologically, we know that at times we get what's called complexed, which is, our childhood traumas. We create this complex emotional reaction to a situation, and that does get relived. Well, when we're in the moment, we can catch ourselves. Remember, we just talked recently about something called the observer self. If we're in church, I'd say, raise your hands. Anybody remember the observer self? And we were talking about the observer self is an aspect of the soul that helps us see our behaviors. It helps us see our emotional reactions. It helps us see, how we want to go out and go, fire an accusation at somebody or react in a negative way. But as we tap into our observer self, we see those reactions starting to happen. And rather than go outward in them, we kind of rise above them and observe, observe ourselves from this higher perspective. So if we're in the now moment, we're automatically in that observer self. So we're completely observing what's happening, and yet we are receiving messages. We are experiencing an energy. We are connected to all that is. So we have the ability to then take in new information. So the freedom of now is I'm not off in the past, stuck there. I'm not bringing the past into the moment, and I'm also not off in the future. Is this making sense, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We, Shannon and I recently played a gig, our first gig back in a year, back last month. And we were loading in, and the sound guy started dredging up this old ick from a previous show. I'm like,
yes.
No, that's, and Shannon actually said, well, that sounds like none of my business. right? It's like that old energy doesn't need to get attached to this brand new thing that's happening. And
Right.
so being able to kind of call that out and yeah,
Yeah, that's like polluting the threshold, man. That's icky stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, a great boundary for Shannon, right?
Yeah,
That's
she
none of my
called it out.
business.
Yeah, and it didn't help.
Boom.
And it didn't help that he was kind of bagging on our music director friend,
Mm.
right? And like, no,
Oh,
I'm not
wow.
gonna
Yeah,
sit
that's
here
not cool.
and to be okay with you maligning, the music director. So it sounds like you need to take that up with him, not complete stranger keyboardist loading in who I've just met 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's obviously somebody really unaware. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's all about
And
staying in the now and not bringing up old stuff.
oh, absolutely. Well, and how often have we been one of those people we all go unconscious at times. We're not thinking, maybe we're tired, maybe we've had a lot going on and we get triggered. Well, then we start, that's when we start dredging up the past.
Yep.
So, and especially if we feel we've worked on a situation and yet it keeps coming up, then we want to keep it alive and keep saying how bad everything is and how we've been made the victim. And what I've learned is the more you talk about it, the more you draw the energy to yourself, and that's not being in the now. And fear is the enemy of the now. Fear is the enemy of the now because fear will keep you in the past or the future. So I've heard it said that fear, this is, first time I heard this, I thought it was kind of cheesy, but I've grown to love it. Fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Although my one of my minister acquaintances, Richard Mirage, says for him it means forget everything and run. But what fear does is it starts to tell us stories, and when we're in the now, there is no other story than what's happening. Like, just think about that. If I'm in fear, I'm worried about what's next, what's next, what's next. Okay, this is going to happen, then that's going to happen. Then what if they do this? And then what if I do this? And then what? That's how the mind goes. It's like, that's how the mind works. That's how the mind is set up to work, actually. It's why we talk about living from the soul and not just being stuck in the mind. Like, we need the logic of the mind, but if we're only sourcing in the mind, we're going to be all over the place. We're always thinking about pros and cons and who did what and what's going to happen and what did they say and what did I say. So fear runs that in our consciousness. So fear is the enemy of the now. I'm just letting that sit there on purpose. I'm still on the air. Don't worry. Yes, fear is the enemy of the now. So you can say, well, how do I know if I'm in fear? Well, how do you feel? It's like so amazing. If we just stop for a little bit, it's like, oh, I'm in fear. Oh, I'm worried about what's going to happen next. I forgot. I just got in fear. Like, and the two, well, the main thing I see people go to fear on is money. Money is the biggest fear monger I know. It's like, well, what's going to happen with money? And what am I going to do? And what about this bill? And what about that bill? So if we're in the now, it doesn't mean that we're in this spiritual la-la land and we don't know how to make money. It means everything that we need to know will be given to us for next steps. And as long as we're in fear, we're actually blocking the information that can come to us. Because remember, friends, that fear constricts. Fear blocks. Fear shuts down. Right? There's no creativity when we're in fear because we're going, oh my gosh. We want to hold on. Like naturally, even when I'm talking about fear, when I just said, oh my gosh, what happened was my hands clenched into a fist. And that's like the internal response that happens when we're in fear. Right? So there are ways out of fear. There are ways into the now. So just think about that. Fear is the enemy of the now. And I'm going to leave you hanging with that. and we'll be back right after this.
We'll return to the program in just a few moments, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partners, Supportek Staffing. Supportek Staffing is an innovative staffing agency built on the principle of caring about employers and employees as they navigate these new workforce and workplace challenges. If you're an employer, they want to be your human resource partner and help with the changes needed during the pandemic. If you're a candidate, they want to become your lifelong career agent to help you grow into your fullest potential. Supportek prioritizes support over volume, integrity over profits, and will treat your business and your career as if it was their own. You can learn more at supportekstaffing.com. That's SUPPORTEK staffing.com. And finally, we want to give a special word of thanks to Center for the Healing Arts. Center for the Healing Arts is one of the first dedicated group practices devoted to challenging, supportive, and nurturing therapy. Their dedicated therapists have a wide range of expertise, including relationship and couples therapy, individual therapy, addictions, neurofeedback, play therapy for children, adolescents, and families, and therapy for blended family issues. They also regularly offer day-long intensive workshops for relationships, addiction recovery, adult children of alcoholics, and healing trauma in the LGBTQ+ community. For more information, head over to centerforthehealingarts.com or call 407-657-8555, extension 1. We now return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Rev Cynthia Alice Anderson.
And welcome back. We're glad you're with us. And I decided to leave you on a little cliffhanger there before the messages. Life is so fun. I'm having a lot of fun today, actually, hosting this show, because I find even in my, I find that I do a lot of preparation before shows, before messages, before speaking or teaching. But when it comes right down to it, when it's time to sit down and do it, you have to be willing to release everything. It's kind of like, okay, well, I did my prep work and I've got to release the fear and just move forward to do what's mine to do. And in truth, it's a very freeing activity. So when I speak of the freedom of now, it is from experience. I can be in hell in my fear and then in the now, all in a matter of seconds. All in a matter of seconds. And I want to assure you that getting into the now is not as hard as we make up to be. See, our ego says it's going to be really hard and you can't do it. In other words, you're not enough in and of yourself. In other words, you need to be scared of the now because what's going to happen. And I want to say a little more because a lot of us fear the now because we have to feel if we're in the now. We have to feel what's happening. We have to see what's happening. So think about your family of origin. What did you all do to avoid now? What mine did was stay busy. Some rage, some drink, some get addicted to television and video games. What has your family done to avoid now? This is helpful because as you see yourself getting into these behaviors, you can go, oh, I see. I see what I'm doing right now. I'm avoiding what's happening. I'm avoiding something I need to see. So I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to pull back this behavior. So most of us avoid the now through some family of origin behavior we've been aware of literally since before birth. So sometimes it's hard to recognize when we're doing it because we think this is how life is. So one of the reasons we talk about so many spiritual things and we talk about evolving is the goal as we're here this lifetime is to evolve out of where we've been. So in this old, those old ways of dealing and coping into a new way. And so we're called really into the now, because in the now, the now is filled with infinite possibility. I'm going to just give you an example. It's just happened at the break, because um, I'm working with this concept of being in the now all the time as a speaker and as a teacher. And I can tell you, as a speaker, I most easily move into the now in that space, because I'm really open to having spirit move in and through me, and I'm listening on a deeper level internally. And so there's no way to not be in the now and do that. And I do it in this space when I'm speaking almost automatically now. I go to speak and I take a huge deep breath and I'm in. I am in the now completely. I'm not thinking about what's next. I'm not thinking about what went before. I am serving the souls I'm in front of, and I am, speaking from this presence of now, where I'm listening, where I'm tuned in. I'm receiving information from the audience. I'm receiving information from spirit, and we're actually in this divine dialogue. And first, I want to say the way I get there, I mentioned to you in passing, so I'm going to slow it down and say the way I get there now is simply with a breath. Kenny Werner's statement, I loved it. He said, "It's so easy, even an American can do it." He said, "You can do it with a pork chop in one hand and a beer in the other. And if you breathe for 20 seconds, you'll find that space." He calls it the space. Right? And I would just say it brings you into the now. 20 seconds. But what happens over time as you practice this breathing and coming into the moment, that it gets to the point where all you have to do is breathe once and your body goes, "Oh yeah, boom." And it's like you drop into that space. And Dave, I wonder if you kind of drop into that space when you're playing, when you're composing, or what, because, as a musician, I know you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I know it as the flow state, where kind of time stops meaning
Yes.
anything, and before you know it, you look up and a few hours have gone by. Absolutely, in composition, flow state, but in playing, I can really feel when I go in and out of the now if I'm playing, and it has to do
Yes.
with kind of your mind wandering and all of that. And if I slip out of the now and I'm playing, that's usually when an error or something, when I mess something up. I'll either miss a cue, or I'll drop a beat, or my time will get icky, or maybe I'll
Right.
notice my butt hurting, or on the throne, on the drum seat. But that can happen. Yeah, when playing live, like I said, Shannon and I recently played our first live gigs in theater for the first time in a year. And if I'm not really dialed in and focusing on the measure that's happening in the now and everything that is going into making music in that moment, then you can miss a cue, you can hit a wrong note, and now suddenly you've impacted other people's performance, and so. From a composing state, absolutely, where you just get into the flow and ideas are going. I've started doing live streaming of my compositional process up on my YouTube channel, and I know when I've hit the wall, like I'm done. It's like I'm in the now, and then suddenly the veil of
Yes.
now is lifted, and I'm just kind of out of ideas. And I've learned that's
Gotta trust that.
that's when I got to walk away. That's when I need to say, "It's
Absolutely.
been 3.5 hours, guys. I'm going to call it. I'm starting to fade. I've got nothing left in the tank for this. So just
Right.
let's walk away and come back later."
Well, it's funny because what I started to say earlier was that when I was trying to think of someone's name, and it's somebody I really love, and so I was surprised I couldn't pull their name up in my memory banks. Does that ever happen? Like, it's like, oh, I haven't talked to him in so long, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's because he's from a different country, and so his name is really different. I always have to like really go back into the memory banks. And so when I couldn't think of it yesterday, I was like, I know it'll come to me. I'm just going to release it. Well, at the break, before we started recording again, Dave said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Give me a minute." And I thought, I'm just going to breathe for a second. It's all about the now. Let me just breathe. And that name dropped in completely with all this information. And what I love about that is exactly like, that's what I'm talking about in utero, man. It's like this is the now. In this very moment I'm speaking is the now moment for you, for me. Here we are in the now. What are we doing with the now? Are we in the now, or are we thinking about the future? Right now, what are you doing? And if you're worried about what's next, you're not in the now.
Yeah, that could be a challenge sometimes when, as I'm producing this show, I'm like taking notes and all this stuff, and then you'll ask me a question, and I'll be like, "Ooh,
Oops,
I
I
was
better pay attention.
looking up a link here a second ago." I've learned, I can't definitely while we're doing our thing here, and it's not just your show; it's all of the shows that we produce here on the channel. I'm staying focused and lasered in, and because if I need to go back and edit something or make a note, or there's a car going by or a siren or something like that, I can't just be scrolling Facebook while people are recording. So, and
Oh,
I
no,
definitely I have to
right, exactly.
be on standby in
Well,
case you ask me a question.
well, and with as a parent, I can't tell you how beautiful it is when I'm in the now moment with my son. There's no better gift. No.
Yeah, Shannon and
And
I
it's
were.
not.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Shannon and I were talking on Saturday before phones and stuff. And I'm not here to like demonize like smartphones and devices,
I
but
know, because they have their place for
yeah.
sure, but they are completely taking over
But
like every aspect of
one
our
of the
life.
things that we used to do, we called it flopping, which was usually like on a Saturday morning. We would kind of wake up whenever we woke up, and we would just hang out and talk for like 2 or 3 hours. We just chill, hang out, laugh, joke. It didn't have a TV in the room. Definitely didn't have any smart devices or anything to kind of occupy us. We may read a book or something, but we called it flopping. And just this past weekend, we were lamenting how that has kind of gone away. And
Yeah.
so we've repeatedly tried to institute like no devices past this time or before this time, and that hasn't really stuck. But I
I
don't
know
know.
it's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's time to
Yeah.
reinstate that.
Well, and it's interesting because yeah, my rule for me is no phone or no devices in bed. I don't scroll at night, or and that's been really great because I feel like I'm reading some really interesting books. One is called um one is about the Federal Reserve, so it's totally boring, but I'm learning a lot. And it's called In Fed We Trust. And it's really fascinating. And next to that one is two books of poetry, and so I've got a variety of right next to that is a metaphysical Bible dictionary. Wow, if you want some really
Some light reading
some
before
dry
bed.
reading, start reading through proper names in the metaphysical Bible dictionary. You will get tired very soon. But because what I realized is, as I was on my phone, yes, I was not in the now, but also it was keeping me up later than I really wanted to be, and I was going unconscious. So and what I've noticed with my son is, if but parents, hear me say this, I have to make the effort. It is too easy to be plugged in now for all of us. And so if I want unplugged time, guess who has to create it? I can't expect a 13-year-old to want to back away from a computer. So I have
Yeah.
to just create something that is more fun than the game in the hand. And that is a real game, like with a board and scoring, that you have to use a pen or pencil. And we have had a blast with that. And we also do connect on a game from time to time, and that's fun too. But like, our only now time is not a game, or is not us in the same room doing different things. There are walks, there are meals, there are game times, there are discussions, especially in the car. Parents have these discussions in the car. Kids love to talk in the car.
Yeah, meal times is something, and again, I believe I've talked about this, but it's something that we do, especially with Larry's passing last year. We've
I
made a
bet.
really deliberate effort to us three, me, Shannon, and Judy, Shannon's mom. We've made a real deliberate effort to at least 3 times a week all get together and share a meal together. Sometimes we talk. A lot of times we just watch like Wipeout on TV, right? Goofy show, but that kind of shared experience,
Yes,
that's
I'm
been
sure
really
she
really
loves that.
important. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and in our family, we play a lot of music, so sometimes it's not even together. Sometimes I help my son practice, and, sometimes when he's doing something, I'll just sit down and play the piano, and he might come up and look over my shoulder or listen in or make a comment, and I noticed, one night, this happened just a couple weeks ago, and, I'm really working on, as I approach any instrument, to be in the moment, to be in the space. And the way I play and what comes out of my playing is totally different than if I'm like judging it and heading a certain direction. So, one of the ways I'm really working with the now is in my playing as a musician. And it's been really, really fun for me to return to that because I think when I was in music school and taking lessons, I was so focused on, whatever piece I was practicing, and I was practicing hours a day and the performance that, being in the now was not exactly important. But I would find the now at times, like you were saying, Dave, in my practice. And so I was having moments of it, but I didn't realize I could go there consciously. And so that's what we want to leave you with today is that, when you can get there, there's great, great freedom there because really it's the source of all knowledge. When I'm talking about the freedom of now, what I'm meaning is that we kind of fall into all that is. And time does seem to slow down. Time we seem to be able to receive information we wouldn't otherwise receive, and we can think clearly about what's ours to do. So the freedom of now is a state of being, and yes, it includes the mind, it includes the body, and it includes the soul.
Yeah, speaking of Soul, the movie Soul by Disney Pixar really does an amazing job of depicting this when the jazz player kind of gets into this flow state and how time and it bridges across like the spiritual realm into the metaphysical realm
Oh
and
yes.
it does such a good job. I'll see if I can't find a clip of that, and that's easily the most accurate depiction as a musician I've seen of that state.
Yes. Well, and I just heard a interview. I was in one of Kenny Werner's classes recently, and he had Felicia Rashad, and it was about I don't know how many people. There's like 40 or 50 people, and I was one of those people. With Kenny, and Kenny Werner was leading the discussion, and the actress Felicia Rashad was there, and her words were so beautiful. Yes, she had a really important part in the movie. And she was talking about that very thing. There's so much in the now moment, and her spiritual journey has been really beautiful. And as you watch her career, you can see how, she's at a stage in life when most careers end and hers is taking off. So, like she's doing more now than she was 20 years ago, which seems hard to believe. So friends, when we think about the now, and the freedom of now, I want you to really be cognizant that being in the now is a gift to your mind, body, and soul. And being in the now is a potential for you. It's a possibility for you. It is a reality for you. The best way to get there is to breathe. If you can breathe for 20 seconds, even better. You'll always get there because it's like your body is built for the now. It's built to find it. So I want to encourage you to begin to consciously move into the now on a regular basis because you're going to find that it's filled with love, it's filled with joy, it's filled with information for you, and it's filled with great possibility for your life. So I want to encourage you on the journey, dear friend. As always, we pray with you and for you that your life is growing, that you are prospering, that you are evolving. So our prayer for you this week is that you find freedom in the now. Thank you for joining us today.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey presented by Supportek Staffing and Center for the Healing Arts. This channel is also made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2021 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.